Hello YouTube gang, and welcome to the first design direction of 2020. Sorry it's taken me some time to put some stuff together. Things have been coming in thick and fast, and I've got quite a lot of good news coming in. Obviously the nomination for Best Independent by AAW Awards didn't actually make the cut, but just to get nominated was was a surprise, and also a great achievement to start off with. As well as being made one of the jury members at AAW Awards. Again, something that I didn't ever think was possible, but great, and really happy with that. Things that are in the pipeline, some of you may have seen or heard. I am potentially working on a masterclass. The level that I want to go in with this masterclass is going to be quite in depth. With all the other things that are going on, I am struggling to find time to do that, as well as fit videos in for you guys as well. So it's coming. I don't know when. I can't really give you a definite answer to that. But just stay tuned. Hopefully, I'll be able to pull my finger out and start to put that together. But it's in the process. Today's lesson is going to be pretty straightforward, I guess. I mean, quite a few people have asked about how you create burger menus and some of the things that you can do. This is just kind of be me exploring, think about things, playing around with some ideas, and let's just see where it goes, and see what we come out with. And that's pretty much it. So let's jump straight into Webflow.
So now we're in Webflow, let's just have a little think about what is currently available to us in Webflow. Now, obviously in the panel, we do have a navigation, which is there. It's not something that I've used, I don't think, ever. All of my navigations I build out from scratch, and it would be exactly the same process with the burger menu. So let's kind of get straight into it. And what we're going to do is we go through, I'm just going to be kind of giving you my thought processes, how we could evolve or advance different elements to the menu. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in a first div, and we're going to call this menu parent. And we're going to make this by 50 pixels by 50 pixels. And as you can see over here, it's on our right corner. I'm actually going to put this to fixed, and I'm just going to move it over left corner, sorry. Well, now I'm going to move it over to my right corner, and I'm going to do 40 pixels, and I'm going to do 40 pixels. We can't currently see it right now, so I'm going to put a background on this just so we can see it for the purpose of this demo. And then I'm going to put it on flex, and I'm going to put it on center. So now we've got the button area. Something to think about as well, especially when you're doing burger menus, is think about that hit area. That is really important. I think the guidelines, the standard guidelines, is around 40, 45 pixels that hit area should be, especially when you get down into mobile devices. Having a small hit area is going to be tricky for them fingers. So now we've got that menu parent. Let's just drop in another div, and we're going to call this menu bar, and I'm going to do a width of 20 pixels, and I'm going to do a height of 2 pixels, and then I'm going to give it a background color. So now we've got that one little bar in there, we can pretty much just Apple C, Apple V, Apple C, Apple V. Now currently we have a line, so it's very straightforward. It's back to the parent, and that is because I need to change the direction to vertical, and now we have them all sitting underneath each other. But we need to put a little bit of margin on these. So I'm probably going to put 4 pixels. Now, if we look at this, it doesn't look in the center, so we're going to have to go back to the parent, just make a padding adjustment, again by 4 pixels, and now we're in the middle. We're looking good. So that's the button done relatively quickly. Great. Going into the overlay. Now, we're just going to get another div. We're not going to do it in this parent. This is going to be separate. And one other thing just to think about, because I forgot that, on the menu parent, we just want to make sure that the z-index is to the top of the page, because we always want that button to be the highest element on the page, especially when you've got other elements below. We want to make sure that that is above. And then with this, we're going to call this menu overlay. So now we have the menu overlay. We're going to do pretty much the same principle as what we did last time. We're going to do a width of 100%. We're going to do a height of 100 viewpoint height. We're going to put this on fixed again, because we want it to be fixed to wherever we open this up on the page. And then we can just go underneath that button. So 998, so we know that it's bang underneath that button, but then it's going to be again on top of all of them elements which we want. I'm going to give it a background color, of course, probably not black. Let's just touch that light a little bit more. And now we have this menu overlay. Now, a little bit of a tip. Some of you may know it, some of you may not know it. Took me not ages, but I stumbled across it and I was like, oh, that's how you do it. So when you put any positions on fixed or absolute and you start to animate by the size, you can actually control the direction of that movement. So here we have a pin to the left. So if I pin that to the left and I did a size, it would go from left to right. If I pinned it to the right, it would go right to left. If I'd done it from the bottom, it would go bottom to top. And if I did it from the top, it would go top to bottom. So that's a really good thing to remember if you want animations to come in from different directions by size. Obviously, by movement, you can move them any direction. It's all good. But if you're trying to do this size movement, which is a different kind of animation style to a moves, I guess, more of a rigid movement, where size is kind of a little bit more of a open and close kind of movement. So that's something to think about when you're animating properties on size. So now we've got the menu overlay in. We're going to put this on flex as well. I'm not going to do center center because I kind of want this to the side a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this nav link parent. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm probably just going to give it 120 pixels. We want it to be 120 pixels off the side. Now we've got this. What we can do is we can drop in a list. Now there's many ways that you could potentially build a navigation. I always use lists, kind of traditional, but that's the way that I like to build them. We have the list, which is in here, and then we have our list item. And then what we can do with that list item is we can drop a link in, and then we can call this nav link. We can size it. And I'm going to use viewpoint width again, something that I like, as you know. And we're going to have to use the height. So we're going to have to put the height on 100%. It might have to go a bit bigger. Let's go 105. We're going to change this font. We're going to go and use that font that we've used before. Make sure it's on the right weight. And then we're going to change it to white. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use some very generic home about and contact. So now we have that in. Let's just have a quick look at it. Yeah, size is okay. I think we could potentially make the height a bit bigger. It still feels like it needs a bit more space in between each of the words. And again, just a note why I use percent. Percent just seems to keep the ratio really well when you start to scale things down. I think we can pump this up to 9. Yeah, I think 8 actually. It's just me procrastinating over it. Boom, great. That's perfect. So now we've got kind of a base structure of what we're looking for. Now let's bear in mind on what this is. It's a nav. So a good little rule of thumb, make sure we change the tag to a nav. Now again, it's changed the icon up here and we now know that this is a nav. So now we've got this structure, and there's obviously other things that you could potentially add inside of this nav. You could have, you know, images, could be social links, could be all sorts of stuff. Now, a standard kind of approach to this would be, well, let's actually do it. A standard approach would be like, okay, go to a mouse click. I'm going to do menu click, and I'm going to grab my overlay, and I'm just going to go. I'm going to set this on the initial state. I'm going to move it up 100%, and I'm going to move it down to 0%. Which, you know, it's kind of standard. We can change the ease-ins, we can play around with the timings a little bit. Still, you know, it's pretty linear, it's pretty boring. I'm not really seeing any pushing on it. Let's push. So the things that we can do with this, and let's just start thinking about the introduction of elements. Really helps bring an animation forward. So we've got these links, and I think staging them links in could be a great way of bringing this to life. So let's just get rid of this. That was just to show you what you could potentially start off with. And now we're going to move into what we can do with it. So we've got this nav link, and what we want to do with this nav link is we want to give it a combo class. Now, the reason that we want to give it a combo class is that when we go to target by a class, it means that when I copy this and drop it onto another page, it's still going to read them links. And if you do it by selected element, I've seen things break because the selected element is literally selected by the page, and you want to hard bake this in, if anything. So I'm going to give this one first, second, and then third. So now we have that. We can go back to our button, do the menu click. We can now start to play around with this. Now I'm going to move this one. I'm going to go and move, and I'm going to move it down 100%. Now, just to let you know, the list item has an overflow hidden. So this list item link is going to move underneath so you can't see it. So now we're moved. We're going to set that to the initial. Set that to the initial. Hurry up. And we're going to do a move 0. And I'm kind of want a movement that's really like fluid and loose. So let's, again, remember what I said, play around with these different animation types. I'm going to go for out quint, and I'm going to really slow it down. So it feels, look at that movement. It's just, and when you start to pair this up, we can do quick way, we can do a duplicate, and then we can do a duplicate. I'm going to select both of these, change target onto that second one, and then all we need to do is just bump that onto that one, bump that onto that one, and then all we need to do is just change the delay on it. And I find this quite a nice way of doing it. So I just duplicate the first and I duplicate the end. I select both of them, I change, and then I change the link. Again, I just go in there, change target, and then select that target. And then all I have to do now is just move them back onto the relative places that they need to go. That's an initial state, and that's my end state. But again, I need to put a bit of timing on that. And if we have a look, beautiful, works really nicely already. So we're starting to move through this. Now I'm thinking, I don't want to do a move. I've done a move. We've probably done a move a million times. Let's do something more interesting. And let's, as I said earlier about that size property, let's do that. Now I want this nav to come up from the bottom. I want it to come up from the bottom and just be presented in a different way. Let's try and see what this looks like. So I'm going to go back to the button. I'm going to click the button. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go to here. I'm going to go size, width. And make sure that you plug all of these measurements in when you're doing interactions. Now, some people might leave this blank because it's defined on the page. And again, through experience, I've found sometimes that it doesn't register. It affects the way that it may respond responsively. Now, I haven't got an example to show you how that works, but just go, right, it is 100% width. and the height is 0 viewpoint height. And what I want to do now is go to the end of that, size, we're going to go width 100%, we're going to go height 100 viewpoint height. Now what we want to do is we're going to have to adjust these timings now because we need this to have a bit of time. I'm going to put it onto the quarters what we had for the size, and I'm going to do a 1.5. And I'm probably just going to move these along. So let's go, I reckon that one at 8, this one at 6, and then this one at 0.4. So when we look at the movement, do you see the difference already? That's the difference in that movement. It's just so much different. And we can make it even further. We can push it even further with difference. And this is the reason why you might want to use the size property. Now, them links come in too early for me. So again, we're just going to tweak and adjust 8, 6. Great. Love it. Now, we could create a bit of a dynamic movement on this. Goes up, links come down. Let's try that because that could be quite nice. So let's just put these to minus, and minus. Let's have a quick look. Boom, boom, boom. Let's try that again. Yeah, it's nice. I think what we should do is probably just speed that up a touch. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. I still think these need to be a little bit long, like a little bit slower, like in terms of the delay of it. I feel like they just, that movement kind of gets, it's kind of too together. It just needs a tiny bit of separation to help that breathe. Beautiful. Love it. Great. So now we've got that animation. How do we push this further? So if we go to the menu parent, and we're going to do one thing here. We're going to choose an image. Obviously, you know the Goonies project that I worked on, and the little Goonies picture. We all love a bit of Goonies, don't we? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an overlay on this just because it is a little bit strong. And then once you see what happens when you add an image to this, it's quite staggering. So we see that movement now. You see how that kind of opens up. It's great. It works really, really well. And let's just have another look. Beautiful. Right, so now we've got that built. We've gone through that process. We've really started to push it. There's obviously a lot more things that we could do with this, but that's just a starting point to think about how you can advance and move things forward. Now, one little thing that we need to just do quickly here is do the second click. And one other thing that we need to think about is this menu overlay. Now, this menu overlay potentially could be overlaying your content, which means you're not going to be able to click links, etc., etc. So do this, get into doing a habit of this. Initial state is hidden. And then what we want to do is the hide and show, we want to show it back there straight away. So now that it won't be affecting any of your page, when you click it, it will transition. And then all we need to do is go here. We need to duplicate this. We need to click this. We now can just reverse this back. So we know we went minus 100, and we go minus 100, and we go minus 100. We know that that's going to be a hide, and the size is going to be to 0. Now that's done, we can get rid of all them initial interactions that we did from the duplication of the first click, and then all we need to do is just work out the timings. So for me, I think let's go that on 0, that on 0.2, and that on 0.4. This needs to go right at the end. So it needs to be right out of the way of them animations. And then let's just go 0.8, and let's just have a quick look. Boom, boom, Oh, that didn't work that great, did it? I don't know why that didn't go up. So let's just bring these up and let's just speed that up on that one. It doesn't need to be as slow on the way out. Okay, that is strange. Oh, that's why, because it's on pixels. So let's just go back. Sorry, it should be on percent, and that now will hide them links. And we just click this 1 in 222. Beautiful. And there you go. I mean, that is quite a quick process, but see how we gradually just progressed it. You know, ideas right now, obviously we can animate the burger menu. You could potentially make this a magnetic burger menu, so when you go to it, it moves towards your mouse. You could bring the image in as a different div, and then you could do a bit of a parallax movement on it. There's so many different possibilities you can do, and just with that simple process of going through and thinking about how you can change the animation, how you can change them types of animations, can really go from something that's quite linear and quite boring to something that looks pretty snazzy. So guys, don't forget, if you liked this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you around, and I'll see you soon. Cheers, guys.